In today's podcast of Data for All, Data in Ages.
Mom edition. Did you like that? How I added that a little bit right there? Welcome to the Data for All podcast. I'm Charlie Apigian.
And I am Charlene Apigian, where we want to empower you to think differently about data.
Oh, differently. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Look at it. Look at it.
Where we want to empower you to think different with data.
Oh, that's so good. Very good.
Okay,
and,
I'm glad you're happy.
Well, thank you. This is part of our Data in Ages series, where we just want to get different perspectives from people. And so we thought it was appropriate. Actually, Charlie Yielding, the other Charlie, not this Charlie, thought it was appropriate to me talk to my mom.
Okay.
And I hear our little chime in the background. We are actually in my mom's and dad's home here in Canton, Michigan, which is where I grew up, believe it or not. So I always say I'm a Detroiter. Is it safe to say you're a Detroiter when you live in Canton, Michigan?
Well, you're a suburb of Detroit. Canton has its own, of course, its own, not manager, supervisor, or whatever the word is. But we're all part of Detroit.
Yeah.
I am totally a Detroit girl.
Well, you actually grew up in downtown Detroit.
And I wouldn't call it downtown. I'd call it more midtown Detroit. I was north of an area that would, everything, the other side of it would be more downtown. A very big area. But born in Highland Park, which is surrounded by the city of Detroit,
right,
which is a strange thing, but we have two of those places here. The other one being Hamtramck. But then raised in Detroit, educated all the way from kindergarten through my 4 years in college.
And as a kid, you grew up, who was in your household?
Growing up, my mom, my older brother, Jim, and my mother's parents. That was our household.
Gotcha.
And very lucky, my dad had already died, unfortunately, before I was born. But Mom was able to go out and get work because she had her parents there to watch after me. Mm-hmm. My brother was 10 years old, 11 years old by the time I was born. And it was a very, very smooth running family. No problems particularly. We were in church every Sunday. And
good supporting cast, and a tight Armenian community here in Detroit.
Yes, very much so.
So everybody on the podcast always hears how proud I am to be an Armenian. Really starts from my roots in Detroit. What high school did you go to?
Cass Technical High School,
the
citywide high school. You had to have the right grades, and made it through, found out what I really wanted to do. I wanted to be a scientist because when I was in junior high, Sputnik went up. That's how old I am. And they gave us a class in, I don't even remember what it was called, atomic science or something. And we all did really well. Yeah. So a whole bunch of us thought, we're going to become scientists. And I went there for this chemical biological curriculum at Cass Technical High School and began to realize after a while that music was my strong suit. Gotcha. So went to Wayne State and got a degree in vocal music education.
So you went to the exact opposite
of science
by going into music.
But because I had 3 years of science classes and stuff, when I started getting educated at Wayne State, I had no problem getting a part-time job at the hospital where my mother worked in the laboratory, where that was my first, my first experience of learning this from all of that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. All of that would be research or setting things up for the doctors to look at and do with blood serum and how they could learn different things from it and all that. So that was my first entry into it. Then nothing, because then I got married, had kids, and didn't really get into it until, how old were you when I started with?
Oh, when you went back to get your teachers, you went back to become a teacher in history, right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that was, yes, that was
Yeah.
the second time I
Okay,
went, because I
that's
went
right.
3 times to that school and taught. Charlie helped me.
I did. I had the
You
yes
used to
card. It's probably the only history I remember in my life is that I sat there and I would
It was world history that you tested.
Oh no, it was U.S. It was.
It was
definitely- I
US?
remember a lot of Michigan history. So I remember a lot with Native Americans, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that's in my
That's
mind.
what you remember?
That's what I remembered.
Because that summer I had to take a course in history, and the only one available to me was history between World War One, military history between World War One and Two, and it was very interesting.
Yeah.
But how much do I retain now? I don't know.
So
But
music
still,
teacher. Then you were history teacher, taught at the
Manugian School.
Manugian School here in downtown Detroit, right by the church that we grew up in.
Well, yeah, in Southfield, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And your real claim to fame, what's your real claim to fame? What made you famous?
Made me-
ladies and gentlemen, she's kind of a big deal. I'm just saying.
My first claim to fame. You talking about the radio
Of
program?
course.
I joined a group that was putting on a heritage of Armenian culture.
Yeah.
What an experience. The best.
You were the radio
best.
host of a weekly radio show that was nationwide, right?
Well, in certain parts, yeah. We
Across
send
the nation.
across the nation.
Yes, not every
Even
city.
into Canada.
Oh,
It went
international.
Newfoundland of all places. How many Armenians are in Newfoundland?
And what was that about?
It was anything written about or performed by an Armenian.
Gotcha.
We did interviews.
That's right. Some of them, some of your most famous interviews. You had a couple.
David Hedison.
Okay.
He's an actor. He was an actor. Oh, now you're going to make me try to remember that.
Eddie McNoyan, which is Eddie Mecca, who is the big
Mekjan.
red.
It was Eddie Mekjan.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mekjan. And he is also
In
the
Laverne and Shirley.
Big Ragu in
Yeah,
Laverne and Shirley. Yeah.
Yes, he was.
That's right.
I did. I talked to composers. I talked to a gentleman, and I'm so sorry, I don't remember his name. He was a sculptor. He was this little guy. He was in his 80s, and his son said, "Don't worry, you're only going to need not even half an hour." We talked for an hour and a half, folks.
I think that's about what we're ready to do. I think
Yeah,
it's
well,
gonna
we're
happen
not
here.
going to, but that was my beginning of it, and I learned how to research. I knew who to talk to get information, and I learned how to write a script.
Yeah, and I remember
had to do
that. I went to that radio room with you and Uncle Ronnie, of course.
My cousin.
Our cousin, who was your engineer then. He was your
Yes.
audio engineer.
Absolutely.
And what I remember is just your research was, you kept it. And you had where the records were, where you had articles of everywhere. You were doing data.
I was
and
doing data
information.
before I even started as the host.
That's right.
We had a committee, and they're talking about, we're going to do this. And I said, wait a minute. Where are you getting your information?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unfortunately, I can't read Armenian fast enough to take down information that way. And they said, we read these books, or we do this and we do that. I said, guess what? My mother has a pack of Armenian, English language Armenian newspapers, probably about this high. She never throws anything
High, as
out.
in you were looking, let's say 2 to 3 feet high.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 or 3 years worth of stuff, really.
Gotcha.
And I said, I'd be happy to set up some kind of a library research type of thing. If you like, I'll do that. Where did I get that idea? I don't know. So I went home and I went to Grandma's house. I got her things, her papers, and I brought them home and I went through them and I said, that's an interesting person. Even if I hadn't heard of him, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I want to have something about that person. Oh, here's something about Aram Khachaturian, the famous composer from Armenia, and so on and so forth. And here's this, and oh, look at this really nice book. Wow, somebody wrote a book about this. What is that about? And so I started out with one 4-drawer cabinet. We ended up with 7.5.
Nice.
Unbelievable.
I remember, because I was just a little kid at that time, and those seemed monumental to go in that room and just seeing the reel-to-reel. I mean, you know.
Oh, we had the big ones. We had an hour show for years.
Yeah, and then I also remember going to, was it WDET in downtown when they did the big.
We would raise money.
And you would have to get on live, and I thought that was the coolest thing.
It was coolest. I had no idea, and I learned so much. I think I was involved in that for at least 15 years.
Yeah.
And then I just got tired. Yeah. I needed a break. And the girl that took over for me, she's still doing it. And I don't know if it's going to continue because Edmund Azadian, who was our solid person that got us started in that, he died this year. And I don't think the people that have been bankrolling it all these years, I don't think they're going to continue.
Yeah.
There's just too much that you can find out in technology today.
Which, by the way, there is, I heard, a website you can go to where they've got blogs about different Armenian. She's such a big deal, folks. And so tell us about your blog that you might have this guy named Charlie help you do, but because of your love for research.
Well, what happened is even years ago, we had a newspaper that came out of our church. It was called The Torchbearer. And I said, I love all these articles you people have, but how about some other people that we don't know about? And I wrote about Oscar Banker, who had changed his name from Avedis, whatever it was. Serafian, thank you. Because he was the man who...
The transmission.
The transmission,
right.
from...
See, I read your article.
I know you do, I know. But anyway, I wrote just a little bit about him because I only found a little bit about him at the time. Since then, I've read the whole book about his life. Yeah. I've wrote the story about it and everything. And Charlie does the extra stuff. He puts in pictures. He makes it look good. But why does he do that? Because after he hears about me doing that, and then we were doing posters for kids, and he says, Mom, why don't you write a blog? And I said, I'm not giving up my recipes. He says, no, because that's the only thing I'd ever heard of. Sure. And he said, no. Write about Armenians. What should we call it? I said, we should call it Remarkable Armenians.
That's right. And it's meant to be the Armenians you don't know that have done amazing things, remarkable things. And you've got ones like Yosef Karsh. I love that because the images, he was a photographer.
From Canada.
Of course, because of the technology side of me, Emek Avakian, who had cerebral palsy.
Yes.
Remember? And
could barely talk,
came up with inventions, worked for IBM.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Did stuff for people like himself.
That's right.
To make life easier for them.
So he was in a wheelchair, and so he made a lot of the different things that you would.
Raymond Damadian, who developed the MRI, and then had to take GE to court to make sure that he got his right.
That's right.
His rights, or whatever you want to call it.
Diana Apkar, who was an ambassador. I knew I'd get her going if I did it. And people that we would know today, like Nubar Afeyan, who is the founder of Moderna, which obviously...
which is only one of about 40 or 50 companies that he started.
That's right. He's
all pretty much the same to get biological help for medical reasons for people to It's so, I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing to me.
And of course, we have to mention Alex and Marie Manugian,
Yeah.
who they were here in Detroit and
Started Masco Corporation.
which was Delta single screw.
Well,
faucet. It was his
that
first
gave him,
invention.
well, he bought
first
the,
product.
he bought the invention from somebody who got stuck, just couldn't seem to go any further. And he put his people on it. He put himself into it until it came out to be the Delta that we know today. And that really boosted them. But they always did. They started out as a screw company.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what he learned when he came here from Armenia. He went to the Boston area, and there were several screw companies, which he worked for.
Yeah.
And then he said, no, I got to go to Detroit because that's right across from Canada. I can bring my parents and the rest of my family there and eventually bring them to the States. So that's how he ended up in Detroit. His wife is from Boston. She came along with him. Their children were born and raised here. And philanthropic, I can't tell you what many of the things he did.
Yeah. Yeah. Masco was, you think about all those home products. So Bear Paint, I remember, was one of theirs. And basically half of Home Depot in the early days.
In the
was
early
Masco.
days, yeah.
All right. So,
wow.
the only thing, sorry for the memory lane there, but, and then, in between, or something that you did at the end of your, let's say, professional career before you have done all these other amazing things was you worked in the family business, did accounting. So you have
which was totally not my thing, but
But you were part of the early years of the internet.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
I mean, and so we had a tool shop. My dad started a company called Concord Precision. And we were thinking of that. We think it was 1984.
Yeah,
When we started
right around that time.
I came and started working there in 95. So that's when I say I work in the automotive industry. It was the family business.
Oh yeah, and you were working even before that.
Sure.
When you were in high school, your dad put you on taught you how to work machines.
Bridgeport Mill was mine.
Sent you out with the engineers, and you said, "I don't want that job."
Yeah, and I've told some of my stories from those days. So you definitely have seen that. But before we get to that, Charlie Yielding has insisted that he hears a couple of cool things about my childhood. So, if you have any, maybe we skip this part. We'll do it for Charlie.
No.
And
It's very simple.
Very simple.
You were always, I won't call you a loner because that's not it. You were always off some other place in the house playing, doing something. Your sister was not. She was right under my feet, it seemed, most of the time. And every once in a while, I would be doing something in the kitchen and I'd hear something from the family room or wherever. Mom? Yeah, Charlie? You okay, Mom? Yeah, Charlie, I'm fine. You okay? Yeah. And that was it. I wouldn't hear anything more. You'd be off playing again. Half hour later, Mom? And that was your way of keeping track of where I was.
I couldn't text you.
No.
So I had to do something, right? And so my toys I played, I was obviously Star Wars was my big, we did a lot of that. Lincoln Logs, I remember Lincoln Logs being a big thing. I like to build things. Remember that was it like an erector set, but it wasn't, I forgot what it was called. And it had gears, it had all this
stuff. Oh, no, it was an erect. Yeah, it was just called an erect. Oh, no.
No, is it a different name?
No, some Tinker Toys.
No, but it was like an erector set. We'll just go with that.
Okay.
But yeah, and you know what you were probably my first audience for anything I tried to do, and I thought I was going to be Mr. Comedian, and then realized only one person thought I was funny, and that's you. And you're already saying you're pretty funny. The truth is, one person thought I was funny. Everybody else tolerates me, and that's okay. And I used to do.
Yeah, but see, I get your humor.
You definitely did.
I do.
And I remember I always I did a lot of my own cooking because I love to cook. I still do. And I would make these concoctions. You'd be like, "Huh? What'd you put in there?" I'm like,
that was
yeah.
And
especially when you started working.
When you started working there, and I'd say if it tastes that good, you got to write down what it was because I was jealous. It tasted better than anything I had made in
Just
that
saying.
particular form.
That's all right.
No,
and I
I'm
would
not
do a lot
gonna-
of vegetables back then.
Oh, yeah,
and,
you did.
And so, yeah, definitely a precursor. So I got to ask this. When I was younger, what did you think I was going to be when I grew up? I don't know if I've ever asked you that.
No, you haven't. But the only thing, the first thing that comes to mind is that when you were in high school, we went to some kind of a meeting at the school in the evening, and it was, you were probably either 11th or 12th grade, and they were talking about the big thing was communication.
Okay.
And the examples they gave is engineering. Say Ford Motor Company, you have many kinds of engineers that work there. But do they talk to each other? Mm-hmm. And that's one of the biggest problems when you have a big corporation like that. It doesn't have to be that big, but if you have people, well, like even when we had our business and we had 3 or 4 people in engineering, okay?
Yeah.
We had Pat there, he was in charge. We had a lady there, I've forgotten her name, but it doesn't matter. She was a wonderful gal, but she had her part of it that she did well.
Yeah.
Pat did his part, but how did we do so well in what we were doing? Your dad had to come up with gauges that would check parts of the drivetrain of an automobile as it comes off the line. It had to be within millionths of an inch.
Yep.
Well, how do you design that? Well, what happens? Your dad comes in and tells them what he's been told they need. Mm-hmm. Then they work together, then they come together again and meet on it. And so there was good communication because we did well.
Well, and then you have to add in the customer was only willing to pay a certain amount.
Oh, yeah.
They needed it yesterday because they waited too long. And so
Oh, yeah.
all of that communication, it's literally what I do now. I'm taking a very hard topic, data, and I'm trying to communicate it to others.
Yeah.
And very similar to what an engineer had to do back then.
Yeah.
Did I have any? What did I start? When did I start doing technology type stuff? Because obviously,
I think, it was, I don't know if you were in junior high or if you were in grade school. That I couldn't tell you. But I do remember we bought you a computer.
that was
and
my
you
Apple
said
II
your
computer.
yeah.
That was my computer.
And
Green monitor. Yeah. Oh,
yeah, but the point, you needed it because you were doing some kind of project. I don't remember what it was.
I probably made that up. I just wanted to play games.
No. You had to do something on it. I do
Gotcha.
remember that. And I was curious enough to do a couple of things on it, but nothing much. Maybe type up something on it.
I lived on that computer.
Yeah.
And I did creative stuff too. I remember.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when Dad ran for Commodore. So Commodore of our boat club, we belonged to a boat club, and you had to run for Commodore,
Which is the
and
president.
I would print signs with my
Yes.
dot matrix.
Yes, that's
printer.
right. I remember
And
that.
so
You did it for a couple people. You did it
I
for
did it
Uncle
for
Bert.
Yeah, I did
you
it for others. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I really, I'd say early on, and I remember like being the stats nerd that I definitely am today. Baseball was my love, and I would, gosh, go ahead.
Okay,
I know what you're going to say.
First year he played baseball, organized baseball. He got on a team with the best man. I don't remember his name, but I don't care.
Kennedy.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes,
wasn't
he was
it?
a dentist.
Yeah.
Orthodontist, one of the two.
Yeah, and Charlie just loved it, and his dad went to it with him most of the time.
Every game. Yeah.
Probably every time. And one time, Charlie was up to bat, and the kid threw the ball, and it hit your finger, wasn't it?
I did swing, and it broke my index finger. My right
broke
index
it.
finger.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he couldn't play for a while, but his dad took him every single game. He put on his uniform, went there, and before you know it, Dr. Kennedy gave him a job as the statistician.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, how old could you have been? 10, 12?
Yeah, it was definitely before high school.
Yeah.
high school. That was my first organized anything.
Yeah.
Because we were boaters, and so every weekend I was on the boat. So
Right. Yeah. We didn't do a whole, but that was more, anyway, that was the first of your stuff.
That's right.
And you did it very easily. It came to you easy. And then high school years, I don't remember a whole lot, except the beginnings of you being in charge. And that happened in wrestling. You were looked up to by your teammates.
I was hungry. That's all I remember.
You were hungry, trying to keep your weight down.
There are sweet.
Yeah,
that was when I had to learn math. How do you get from this weight to this weight in a 2-day period?
Yeah, but eventually you were the team captain.
Sure.
And you did a great job.
Wow.
And it just, I don't know. What you did, you made us proud. You made yourself proud. You did a good job.
Well,
but you also,
coming from the mom, of course.
yeah, but you had the whole family behind you. Your sister was so proud of you. Oh. Even, you were both in the same high school for a while, and it's just, it was a good thing.
And as we just did a data in parenting episode, and we talked about how examples are the best way to parent, and your love for research, Dad's work ethic, just were two things that definitely framed who I am today, and so all that. So let's get off the gushy stuff. Try to think if there was any other really cool. And I can tell you, talented, plays the piano amazingly. You can sing like a dream, and so you're very musically talented. But you do have this other side to you that is this thirst for research, and so I'm really curious about if I'm a data person. What is your definition of data?
My definition of data: compiling information that you need to do a job, or compiling just because you're curious about something. I don't have to go to the library and look it up in the encyclopedia, okay? As a kid, I never had many people had the whole set of encyclopedias. We did not. We had something called the Book of Knowledge. And in those books, you learned about scientists, doctors, poetry, stories, all kinds of things. And when I was little, it seemed like I got almost every disease that we had. Nothing really horrible, but you were home for a week. And I would sit there and I would read. And I would learn things. And I was excited about learning things. That was the funny part. Yeah. Some people, okay, it's out of my mind. I don't need it anymore. No. Some things just stay with you. And between being a teacher, what do you have to do? You have to do research.
Yeah.
They often say the definition of a teacher is that you're a chapter ahead of your kids. Well, you have to have a little bit more than that, and you have to have the desire to teach them by learning something to teach them.
Yep.
It's just the way it is.
And I got to spend my last 20 years doing kind of the same thing as well. And I definitely think that love for learning. So let me get specific when it comes to data, because I talk about this a lot. What would when you say information, is it words, numbers, conversations, colors, images? Does any of that
words?
Okay, so in your case, you think of words because of research.
Yeah.
But most people when they hear data, they think numbers.
Oh yeah. See, because I think I don't think data. I think research.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay. My opinion is always that data is capturing an imperfect view, the capturing of an imperfect view of reality. Okay, so think about that. And so to me, that could be anything. It's about, okay, we're here right now. Tell me the data that's part of this. I got a date, or a time. It's going to be a certain length. There's going to be a file format. There's going to be content within what we're saying, right? There's going to be images that are part of this. All are part. That is data, and I can now remember this in 5 years, and that data that was captured today can be recalled at that point.
Right.
That's what I mean when I see data. You did research. I mean, this. So I know we didn't mean to set it up this way, but if you go back to when you worked in the radio room during your incredible days as a radio DJ, but not really a host, of course, and you were doing research back then to working in the family business, and when the internet was just starting, right? Mm-hmm. All of that leads to where you are today in technology. So you've been through the analog.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can even think about doctors' offices back in the 70s. Think of the number of files that you would see on the walls. Now it's in one computer, right?
I didn't think my eye doctor would ever stop, because my history with my eyes and problems with them was this thick. And now it's just on a screen.
That's right. And that's the data that's been captured about you during that time.
Oh, yeah.
So you do use technology today. What type of technology do you use in your everyday life?
My cell phone.
Okay.
For almost everything I can think
And I think you've been an iPhone the whole... No. We go back to the flip phone days. We were early adopters. We, as in our family, we had remember the carrying case?
Yes.
And you had the antenna. We'd take it on the boat.
Yes.
And we'd sort of make a phone call.
I remember having to call friends of mine. I was trying to find the restaurant. I was supposed to meet him. It was dark. And I had this big old phone thing. And I
It was
finally...
like a suitcase. It looked like a suitcase.
Yeah. And it was on right next to me, and on this straight, none of this, special, everybody in their own seat type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right across the top.
bench.
The bench
seat, yes.
Yeah.
In the car.
And I called them on that thing, and I was the first one to have one of those things.
Yeah. So then
But
we were
now-
like Nokia phones, because in the business we had to have them. And I remember the bills, you didn't want to talk more than 30 minutes a month. I mean, it was really restricted. And but I think your first real smartphone would have been an iPhone, from what I remember.
Probably.
Because that's what I was using. And,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
forced
I
you
didn't
to
know
get one
what
of
else.
those.
Oh, yeah. What else was I going to get?
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else in your everyday life that you can think of? I mean, your phone use.
Well, for example, yesterday I had bought some apples, some Granny Smith apples,
Okay.
because they're great for when you want to bake something with them.
Sure.
And I wanted to make an apple bread. And I had a couple of recipes. I looked at one, and it said you needed apple pie filling. And I thought, I don't keep that at home. I can't do that. And I looked up another one that I had at home, and I said, oh, I don't have that here either. So I got on my computer, and I put in apple breads. Came up with one that sounds easy, simple. I got all the ingredients here. I'm ready to go. I didn't know really how to cook a slab of ribs. I know how we used to do it in the old days, but we used to buy those other ribs, those longer ones that didn't have much meat on them. We used to boil them first, and then, oh God, that's awful. So I finally, after reading a few of the recipes for baby back ribs, I said, oh, I just have to start a couple hours earlier than I do. And it was simple. Oh, how do I make a rub? Well, I went online. I learned how to do that. I am learning so much just by saying, I wonder how I do that.
Yeah. So you're using it to get information.
For everyday life.
Is there any, and you do have you're always using your laptop as well. You use a laptop.
Oh, that's where I found all those.
I used to get a call once a week about your printer. You don't call me much anymore for your printer. Is that because you're using it, or you're not using it?
No, I'm using it.
Little secret. You used to print emails so you could read them. Is that true or false?
I don't print emails now too much.
Now, too much. I'm
Not
saying
too
in the
much.
past.
Very, very seldom. It depends on what's in the email. But what I do is, if I get information about something, I get so many emails. And
get a lot of junk emails, yes, you do.
I do get a lot of junk, which I can get rid of quickly.
Sure.
That's not the point. But there's a lot of stuff like the Armenian Mere Spectator.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one English language Armenian newspaper that's left. There's only a couple of them, I think, altogether. Anyway, I don't have time in my life. I haven't had time in my life for several years to just sit down and read the whole thing down, And if I'm going to read a newspaper, I want the paper.
Oh, I
I don't want to look at a screen. And I'm trying to get past that. But if I find something that's really interesting, I will print it up. And I've made, again, with the file drawers and stuff, and I am going to go through them. I know I am because I have a lot of stuff there that is totally unnecessary. I will never use it. I can throw it out. So,
and with that, you mentioned you don't have time. One of the reasons is because you're a caretaker as well.
oh yeah, I know that.
And my father, obviously your husband, doing well, but physically he struggles. So you have a lot that you have to do there. Is there anything in technology that has helped you with those kind of tasks? Do you pay bills online?
No,
Doesn't pay bills, doesn't have a debit card, right?
no.
Went to the grocery store and she wrote the check, folks. Just saying. Do you buy groceries online?
Yes.
Okay.
With Costco, because everything is so big, and
And they deliver.
And they're delivered within 2 hours.
Got to get you to do that more. And you have, there's certain parts of technology, which obviously data is part of that. We're going to use the word technology, but to us, it's this big umbrella that can reduce the time in your day, and slowly but surely, like paying bills for me doesn't take any time because they're either automatically done or it's a click of a button. You're writing checks. And so that's an
Well, and that has been a thing that with my husband, and we've had a couple things happen, nothing terrible, but I said, do you see that we need to stop writing checks for payment? Because there's been this big thing about people that work at the post office that are opening up what they know is a payment for something and changing the name that it goes to them.
very easy to do that, right?
Yeah,
so
and
you
that
have to watch
scares
that.
the bejesus out of me because we just found out at our HOA that we pay every month here for the condo. They didn't get one of our checks. Well,
Yeah.
and it's not been cashed though. That's the only thing.
Well, so it just got lost.
Lost.
So, but if it was, so I know you've done a little bit of transition to the new technology world, and there's a lot there. And I'd say if I was to rank you, and we're not giving away your age because you're way too young because I'm incredibly young. Everybody knows I'm old because I'm told it every time on the podcast. So it is, that's okay. But I would say you're in the top 20% in terms of technology from what I see. Definitely.
Really?
Yes, you do a good job. And it was intuitive to you, starting to use Zoom. You didn't.
Oh, I
that
had
was
no
not that
problem
hard?
with it.
Yeah.
No.
So that's what I mean. I'm able to walk you through something over the phone that I don't know if I could do that with most people that are older than me. And so.
One big difference though is that I know you know what you're talking about.
And it's funny how I can literally say, go to the top left corner, click preferences, go down to, and you're okay.
No, the other day, I was in the basement. This is just a couple days ago. I was in the basement and a call came over my cell phone, which was up here. Your dad had his computer on and it came across that and he says, Charlene, this phone call came through. What do I do? I says, up in the right-hand corner, hit accept. Oh, okay. Because it was Carolyn and he wanted to talk to her.
He answered on
He
the
answered
computer?
on the computer. It is the first time. Yeah. And I gave
That's
him
a
the
big
right.
deal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really happy.
So I
about
think
that.
you've hinted at it, but what would you say is the biggest benefit to technology that you have found?
The ease of research,
Yeah.
of finding out anything. Simple thing. We're watching some old thing. Of course, we're watching some old thing on TV, and we'll say, "You think that guy's still alive?" And I'll say, "I don't know." One of us is then on our phones, and now lately more, it's your dad.
Yeah, he's doing
finds
good.
out he's doing really well. He puts in the name, and he might say, well, "How do you spell that?" or whatever it is. Doesn't matter. Anyway, he gets it. He'll tell me all about it, and he's happy. He's proud to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's having fun with it now,
yeah.
you know.
Tell me something that used to be analog. We talked about this with GPS. So tell me your experience when it comes to what we'll use that as the example. Because obviously you were pre Google Maps. So what have you noticed? How has that changed your life?
Well, the biggest thing would be the maps and the triptych I had to get from AAA
Oh, yeah.
for us to go.
When you say
Out
maps,
east.
you're talking physical maps.
Physical
not
maps.
Google Maps. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I love physical maps. And it wasn't just that. Back before any of this stuff, there was, I don't remember what it was called, but on the boat, we had it where we
yeah,
could
yeah.
do
Those-
that.
well,
But
those are
when
just
we
charts.
started, we started with charts. And I was the one who was reading the chart and telling him where to go and
right.
everything. And then we had that, I forget what that was called. It was something that
Radar.
it was a form of radar, but it was just for boats.
Yep.
It wasn't
Yeah,
for
that's
cars or
right.
anything
Yeah, I
else.
remember-
It
I
was
remember
just
what you
for
mean.
boats. And that was fabulous. And we used that all the time to go all over the Great Lakes. And then when we would go to New York, even though I pretty much knew the way, there's nothing like having a map and the triptychs were great. That was another great innovation data-wise. I mean, it was easy, simple to look at.
Yeah,
And
that's
if
true.
you-
That's the first customized version of
Right.
how to get somewhere.
Yeah,
with
why
the
do you need
triptych.
a map this big when all you need is this much information?
That's right.
For the road you're taking and a little bit on either side. That's it. You don't need anything.
That's right. I
else.
forgot about those. Yeah. And
Yeah.
Do you ever remember getting lost anytime?
Oh, yeah. Well, around here, I didn't get lost on long-term things because your dad was always, somehow we would always get our way. But I remember having to go to probably an hour from here in an area that I was not familiar. I was going for a shower, a baby shower, wedding shower, something. And my friend did tell me that I did have to watch for this road. It comes up fast. And so you can get on that road to go to this place. Well, I missed it. And it could have been the beginnings of GPS.
Okay.
It could have been way in the beginnings where there was a lot of false positive
right.
stuff. It was crazy.
Or just stop working because there's nothing there, no map of that area.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I got lost. And I came back to the road. I turned around, I came back and went a little ways, found what I thought was the road, and it was. And it was really crazy. I mean, you had to drive like half a mile before you got to the building and
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, now I don't worry about it because one way or another, I will get there.
Yeah.
I have not only my GPS, my screen died when Sammy was graduating a couple of years ago, and I was going to drive here with Joyce, or drive to
So
your
when you drove from Nashville to Detroit, or from
no
Detroit?
Detroit to Nashville, I did not have a screen
Oh,
in my car, so we took her car, but she didn't have GPS, so we each got days on our phone, And
Waze.
Waze, W-A-Z-E.
That's
I'm
it.
sorry,
There you go.
Well, I was in a daze, whatever.
That's right.
Yeah. So we made it that way. That's the biggest difference. You don't need a map. You don't need the physical map. And yet I became quite good at reading a physical map. It was easy.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Do you have any fears? Like when you think of technology, is there anything that you're like, nope, I'm not going to even get near, or fears of things in the future?
Well, for one thing, you are my safety valve. Obviously, if I come across something that I just cannot figure out, I just call you.
Well, and that's a good point. I think this is very important to say. Have somebody in your life that when you think you've got a scam email or a text message you don't recognize, they can talk to you before you click.
Yes,
Clicked.
I've clicked
And she says, and they asked me for my credit card. I'm like, are you kidding me? Cancel that credit card right now. That was a scam. And you're like, oh, I learned. But you're exactly right. Everybody should have somebody that they can
they trust and can call and get information.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's other systems out there where they could call people. I don't know. By the time if you were going to call like an Apple store, oh my God, by the time you get to somebody that you need.
But you've had a store here you go to with your computer when I'm not around because I'm 600 miles away.
Yeah. There's one, and it's a half-hour ride, no big deal. But I also found out about someone who's not too far from here. Within 5 minutes, someone else had used him for some help, and I don't remember what my problem was. But I went to him, and in the next day he had it fixed.
Great.
And went back, picked it up. I was on the road again. So I'm more cautious. I'm much more, and sometimes even with some phone calls, I ask them repeatedly, what's the company you're calling from? Why are you calling us? And stuff like, because your dad will talk to some people, and I said, you can't do that anymore.
No,
you can't,
and
because
especially where
somehow they find out something from you, and it's not what you want.
Yeah, and you'll notice usually people over a certain age, they're going to be vulnerable to scams through Facebook and other things. And you've had your password stolen 15 times more than I have. And I think it's all based on the demographic you have to really watch out for. Have you heard much about this term artificial intelligence? Or
lately, yes.
Yeah. So what do you think of that? And then
I think back to a couple of movies that I've seen. One with Will
Smith. Yeah. Those robots. I think is the name of the movie.
Yeah, iRobot. Yeah. I think we're quite a ways from it. On the other hand, technology nowadays, I feel that we don't have the control that we should have, or too many people, too many fingers in a pot, or I don't know how to say it. Am I afraid for my safety and stuff like that yet? No, but in some ways I am, because we have all these scams going on.
Yeah.
People can make you think they are what they aren't.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thing, because I know I'm getting older and older, and maybe I don't catch on quite as fast as I used to. I forget.
Yeah.
I forget some things. And I'm learning to be more cautious.
I think that's
I don't
really
know that
important
we
to say.
have to worry about these machines taking over the world yet.
Mm-hmm.
But what's it going to be for my grandchildren?
Yeah.
That I don't know.
I think about that all the time. And it's how do you future-proof yourself to make sure that you're in a profession where a human has to be part of it? The first thing that'll change will be repetitive tasks. Things that are simple will be replaced with artificial intelligence.
It has to be.
We're not going to need data entry. We're not going to need a lot of that. But then there's this malicious side where you could get a phone call and think it's my voice. Somebody can steal my voice. I'm on a podcast. They could easily get that, and you can replicate that in the future, and you think it's me. And so cautious, for sure. They'll get something wrong, and then you'll be like, this isn't who I think it is. And so you just have to, don't always be, is this really you, Charlie, from now on when I call? But I do think there's a lot, and you've done a good job of embracing technology. I think you need to do a little more.
I want to do more. I wouldn't mind taking a class just to learn. I mean, there's all this stuff on the phone even that you can do. I want to feel more capable.
Yeah.
I don't want it just to be something to put even emails, that doesn't happen as much. You don't get as many good emails. People will text each other.
That's right.
If they can't get you on the phone, they text you, which is great because a ding goes off and you think, oh, there's somebody that wants to talk to me.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Just for life in general, has technology helped or hurt our way of living?
From my viewpoint, it has helped.
Okay.
And especially in the medical field, the information that anybody, like at the hospital that your dad goes to when he's had to go to a hospital, our doctors are all involved in that.
Yeah.
And all they have to do is open up their screen and say, oh, well, in such and such a time, this and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's very important.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very, very important for that. And it should be in business. It should be a godsend, I would think.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think in education it has. I'm sorry the only thing that I feel is sad is people that read books on a Kindle or whatever. I know
you have a love for the feeling of a book in your hand.
Absolutely.
And
a piece of paper from whatever to slip in to keep my place and stuff.
That's how I feel when I'm at my standing desk with a huge monitor in front of me and I'm just playing away, writing code. Not really. No, I get that. Well, I told you, I knew it would be an hour that we would spend talking. Whether we use this for sound bites or give the
whatever
whole
you
thing.
want.
I know that the other Charlie is going to be very proud that we did this. And I don't even care. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to my mom. And I'm a softie when I think about how much we've done, how I've been formed to be the person I am because of you. And I really, your insights today, I think will help a lot of people.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's been a fun thing.
Well, with
Brought
that,
back some good memories.
Yes. And so we got to get everybody to go to your wonderful blog, Remarkable Armenians.
.com.
That's right. And then we maybe have to put a new blog up there of a very famous Armenian, that last name Apigian, first name Charlene. Yes. I'll have to write that one for you. But otherwise, any parting shots for what we've talked about today?
No, I'm happy to do it. I feel very fortunate that when I was a little girl, we didn't even have a private telephone line. We had a party line.
Oh, wow.
And you would get on the phone to get ready to call somebody, and somebody would already be talking to somebody else. But it was the cheaper way to go. And so we didn't get a private line until everybody got a private line, your own private line. And it was kind of fun in some ways, too, but it's always, the phone itself was always our way to be in touch with people because we didn't live near the rest of the Armenians. We never have lived near where they were, except like when my mom first came there, they all went to this one area of Detroit, and which has always been known as a real melting pot of everybody, but there were a lot of Armenians that lived there because they were more comfortable. They understood each other. And until they knew more English and could broaden their horizons, they stayed together.
Gotcha.
And it just seemed that our family always was not with where everybody else was. And it was okay because we were comfortable being different. Okay? It's okay. Just, we're still that way.
Yeah.
We're not where all the bunch of Armenians are anymore. And we're in a completely different area. It takes us longer to get places. That's our business. That's what we do. That's okay. We're happy.
Yeah, so being different is okay.
Oh, absolutely.
I love it. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks again, Mom.
You're very welcome, honey.
Whether this goes out as a full podcast or it was meant to be a part of one, regardless, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully you've enjoyed this from the Data for All podcast. And so, for the Data for All podcast, I'm Charlie Apigian.
And I'm Charlene Apigian.
And until next time.